Okay, I'm looking above at the camera because I want to get this in the camera, in the picture. I'm going to work with Kelly's Kelly Fitzgerald's journey tokens today. I'm going to do a reading, a casting and a reading. And I had an idea this morning, and I'm going to do that. Now, what I'm using is I'm using this is a canvas, and I'm turning it over. This is a 12-inch a square canvas. Turning it over, and it's probably, I'm thinking, maybe 10.5 inches square, because we have these spacer bars, stretcher bars that are probably 1.5 inches. Now I'm not getting the whole thing in here. I'm going to try to raise this up and see. Oh no, it's as high as it can go. So there we go. Can't raise it any up. So we're going to try to put the lip down here, and I got to remind myself to check it to make sure it's in the visual field. So what I'm going to do is, I had an idea this morning, and I already did one video, but the tokens were out of the visual field, so I want to do another one with a different question. I had this idea this morning of how to throw some tokens, and it was really fun, and it was really interesting. So I'm gonna ask the question of, I want to learn a story about myself. A story that I can learn from. So I want to learn a story about myself, and I'm going to pick 9 tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tokens. And they're pretty much okay. That's pretty good. They're pretty much in the screen there. So the lower part is in. The higher part I may have to move when I cast these. I'm going to put them aside, and I'm going to cast 3 tokens 3 times. 3 different tokens. So there's never going to be repeats because I already picked the 9 tokens. So I'm going to cast them 3 tokens at a time for 3 castings. And I want to tell myself a story about myself, something I can learn. I can learn from the story, something that will be illuminating to me. So the first casting is going to be the beginning of the story. The second casting is going to be the middle of the story, and the third casting will be the end of the story. Okay, so I'm just going to take 3 of these, and this is the beginning of the story. I'll move this down so you make sure you see it. Let's end it on the edge. We'll just keep that there. It's kind of coming off, but this is a small surface, so we'll just put that down there. I have to stop because the dogs are at the door. Okay. This was turned over, so we're going to turn this over and put it upside down. We're going to put these right side up so I don't confuse them. So this is a story. I'm going to start here because there's more of a clump here, and it goes that way. And this is kind of fell almost outside of the surface, but the surface is very small. So, okay, we start out here. Now this is an energy that's blocked, and the energy is, so first we'll look at the energy. It's spirit. So it's a spiritual energy that started out. My story starts out with a blocked spiritual energy. Now, when I quickly review my life in my mind, this is very often happened many times in my life, this blocked spiritual energy. So I'm going to be taking something that happened in my life a long time ago. And I'm going to start at that point. There was grief issues. So I'm starting with, the story starts with the grief issues that I've had in the past, and where my spirituality was certainly blocked. And so I'm starting at a place in my story that I'm familiar with, and that's where the story begins. It begins with a story of grief. And separation from who I really am. And so here we have the moon, and that is the waning moon, I believe. Let's see, the waning moon. So something is coming to an end. So I had the grief, and there was an ending with that, and that's true. So, and then over here we have the off to the side we have this water energy, which is the intuition energy, which is the female receptive energy, which is off to the side here. But I see this as the beginning. Okay, the beginning of the story talks about the grief and how it affected my life when I was younger, and it blocked my spiritual growth, and it the waning moon means releasing, and so it blocked my spiritual growth, but led me to some sort of, I mean, it led me on a very different road than I would have been on had I not had certain experiences in my life. And I learned to release some of it for sure. So that's where this, so how does the story begin? It begins with someone whose spirituality, whose spirit has been affected deeply and been sort of depressed or put under a rock, kind of thing. But then that eventually led to a release of some energy. I'm not sure what that energy was, but maybe it's this water energy. And actually, grief, I've learned, I mean, the story of my grief, and of course this is kind of tells the story of my grief. You have grief, it kind of beats you down. But when you release the grief through tears, through emotions, you can start releasing this. So the releasing came with the emotional release of things. So here we see my story as my grief story. So we're going to talk about my grief story, and this was the beginning of it. And it shows that I was my spirit was affected greatly, but I did learn some lessons, and I did learn to release some of it. So that's where that is. Now that was the beginning of the story. Where is the middle of the story? What I'm trying to do is trying to learn things that I don't know, that I don't understand. Oops, I'm going to throw this one back. Okay, so let's see how that is in the... Perfect. So here we have the web. We have the web. The web is a very strong one. So again, I'll start from the bottom up, and then this is these turning of energies. So here we have, I have to learn these elements. I seem to stumble with these. We have the air suit. It's always been my mind playing games on me. It's always been an issue. So I start out with these, the grief this cyclical thinking, the cyclical nature of grief, where you just can't get it out of your mind. Oh, you'll get over it. Time will take care of it. Well, no, it doesn't take care of it. So this has been going on for pretty much years. I mean, I know what that is. So being stuck with your mind. And over here, off to the side, which shows that maybe at some point I may be in the middle. Now, am I in the middle or am I in the end? I don't know. There is this, is this the new moon? This is the new moon. And the new moon is again bringing up this moon energy, which is intention. So my intellectual area, my thinking, to change this trajectory, I need to have some more intention. Bring forward intention. Stop the thinking and bring forward intention. Now, how does someone do that? Well, bringing forward intention has a lot to do with this web thing, where everything's connected, and it's kind of like seeing here this mind game, this heady intellectual stuff is really isolated, And if I just go in a different direction and put some intention out there and grab on to all the energy that's in the web to lead me in a different direction, I could leave a lot of that other stuff behind and maybe stop this problem here. Now, I think these were all upright, right? I think they were upright. I can't remember if they were upright. I think they were. Where I had the block spirit, I think these were all upright. I'm assuming they were. I don't know. So here I am, isolated, and I need to do something to get out of the cycle. And it's a cycle that's been going on and off, on and off, cyclical, it's up and down. And here it shows some direction where I should go, is having the intention to change, having the intention to look and feel the connection of all things. And of course, that is one way of understanding intellectually grief, is understanding that the connection with everything. Everything is connected. And so, grief is just a little part of this huge web of connection on many levels. Okay, so I have a direction to go in with intention and the web. The web is there to help me understand and help me work through those issues. Now the ending, how will this all turn out? I'll bring those up a little bit. Okay, so now we're at the bottom and we have winter, and we have the full moon, and then we have, that's another season. So we have this wonderful little progression. If it's upright, it's the first part of winter, and it's reflection. So the ending is with reflection. It's not with grief, it's with reflection. And then we have the full moon, which is manifesting, bringing forth change, dramatic change. And then at last we have fall, and we have the beginning of fall, which is harvest. So here we have how the story ends is in reflection, and then with the full moon, how we manifest, and then how we harvest. So there's growth in this section. So wherever I'm talking about my own story, I can see myself maybe out of that cycle and into a new cycle. A cycle of seasons, a cycle of the moon, a cycle of something greater than myself, a cycle where I can step back and not be so ground into the past and what happened in the past. So the ending is very wonderful because it's expansive. It's looking at things globally, and it's looking at the big issues, how it's looking at it's reflecting, it's manifesting, and it's harvesting. So we're in a situation where there's a lot of growth here. So let's just look at my story this way. Now, I had no intention of what the story was going to be. So, what happens is you pull out your stories. I think it went this, more or less. It doesn't really matter how it really went, I guess. I don't know. So here they are. One of these was upside down. So I started out with a story, one of my stories. Of course, there's many stories. And I saw the tokens, and I came up with the story of grief. I have a lot of other stories, but I chose to look at the grief. And I chose the grief because of the spirit being blocked. And when I looked back at my life, I thought, well, yeah, that's where my spirit's been blocked for like 40 years, is the grief cycle, and tempering down, patting down my spirit, putting it under a rock. So that's where my spirit was, so I think this is a grief story because of this. This makes me think that it's grief. So we put our own meanings on the tokens. I put the meaning of grief on this because of the blockage of spirit. And then we went into the waxing moon. That's the waxing. No, that's the waning moon. And the waning moon is releasing. And so I've had to release my journey has been in releasing this grief through accessing my intuition and my emotions and the watery suit. So I have been working on this for a long, long time. I'm still there actually, but so this has been my story. This is one of my stories. This is the beginning of one of my stories where I've had to deal with issues that I have had to, let's see, this waning moon is that I needed to release, and I've been working on that. Now, where has that led to me? Where has that led me? It's led me to a place where I've over-intellectualized the grief in many ways, and that's probably affected my spirit, and which then led me to, it advises me that, you know, could be an issue, this over-intellectualizing the grief and not feeling it. The release comes in feeling it, not in thinking about it. So that's how I see that. And then here we have the new moon, which is intention. So I have to, since I have this overly active air energy, intellectual energy, I have to have intention to seek to go into the web, go into the spirituality, go into all the energy that's out there to really help me through this problem here. I see this as my big problem right here. But there's help. If I just have the intention to access the web, this could help me with these issues. Now, where will it lead? Where if I follow this track, if I understand that a lot of it is overthinking, and then I understand that, you know, I need intention to go into to access other energies, where will this lead? Well, this will lead to the winter suit, which is the beginning of winter, which is to reflect, just reflect, not get overly intellectualized, but just reflect, just look at it passively, just look at it, at all these things that happened, but look at it from a distance, and that will lead to manifesting a harvest. So getting somewhere. Maybe I will get somewhere. So where I'm starting out here and where I'm ending here, that's how I kind of see it. Starting out with this problem and ending up finally with some, not resolution, but a harvest. In other words, an understanding and a growing, and not a growing because you're collecting. In other words, I will have learned from all this and I will harvest. I know it will become, you know, harvest a great amount of energy. Harvest that energy that's been kind of all over the place. So this is just one little reading. Interesting. I just wanted it to tell me a story about something in my life, and this one drove the rest of the reading. So I think that's cool. And a lot of this rings true. This very much rings true to me. Lost in a cycle of grief, and it wasn't until I started having thoughts about releasing it that I got somewhere. But I still overanalyze things. I need to set out some intention to see the world more globally, to see the existence more globally, to see everything more globally, and then that will lead to reflection. I'll see the web, I'll reflect on it, and then that will bring forth manifestation of a harvest. So I will learn something from all this, and that's a good thing. Okay, well, that was it for this little storytelling of an aspect of my life, and I will ponder, I will think about this more, and I will do more reflection, and I still need to do more work over here, I think, but it looks good. I will make choices. If I make choices, kind of be careful with this little guy here. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of ways I can grow and reap benefits from the the energies all around me. Okay, have a great day.